On today's show, we discuss about the different articles written by the authors of InQuire. I'm Alexander Lilley, and you're watching the Paper Review. Welcome to the Paper Review, where I'm joined by Nat, Ruby, and Will. Thank you very much for being here, guys. So the first story I would like to talk to you about is the headline article at the moment is Kent Union ranked red. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Kent Union, well, all of Kent, has received a red warning for their freedom of speech policies. The university itself is an amber warning, but Kent Union's got a red for their no platform policies, which means that anyone with extreme views can't enter a union building, which Spiked magazine is arguing restricts the freedom of speech at universities. But there's a lot of universities who've been ranked red and amber, and very few that are green. Over 80% have been marked as restricting freedom of speech in some way.
Does this implicate a lot on people?
On one hand, it sort of shows that we're restricting what we're saying. You can only do so much here. For instance, the Blurred Lines song, that's banned, and that's sort of seen as a restriction on the freedom of speech. But on the other hand, I spoke to Dr. Jo Williams of the university, who also contributes to Spiked and was involved in the ratings. And she indicated that the restrictions of freedom of speech doesn't necessarily mean that we're clamping down so much that students aren't interested in this sort of thing. So she's suggesting that because we've made these restrictions, we are more interested, we're more involved, we're more keen to show sort of our political views, although conversely restricting them at the same time.
I'd like to move on to the article about the LGBT History Month. Tell me what you wrote about this article and why it is important.
Well, one of our writers has written a comment piece about this. LGBT History Month's running for the whole month of February, so it was something that we really wanted to cover. And a writer came forward who is actually part of the LGBT community, and he's written a really interesting piece about sort of internalised homophobia within the LGBT society. So basically sort of the fact that people don't want to be labelled as camp, and he talks about how on dating sort of apps like Tinder or Grindr, people say, you know, gay people will say like no camps or no, you know, sort of feminine men or whatever, and he basically argues that that's something that needs to be dealt with, and you know, LGBT community needs to be proud of itself no matter, you know, what the people are like, which is obviously a good message to put forward.
And since it's Valentines, I thought I'd like to talk about one of the articles, 69 Things a Man Should Not Say to a Woman. When I read it, I was not only amused, but I was actually quite shocked at some of the things that are on there, like such as Make Me Food, or my personal favourite, There Is Where I Buried My Ex-Girlfriend. Why did you write this article in the first place? Why do you think it was a good idea to put it on there?
Well, that article is an editorial written by our website features editor, Keris. She was trying to think of things to write, basically, and someone had said something a bit sort of demeaning to her earlier in the day, so she thought, right, I'm gonna get him back. And originally it was going to be 101 things, and then it was 109 things, and then she sort of ran out of words / thought it'd be funnier if it was 69 things. Because the 69th one is a bit of a treat. But yeah, some of them are quite rude. But what was really sort of shocking to me was when I was reading through the paper before we sent it to print, I read them to my housemate, and she was like, "Yep, I've heard probably about 60 out of those 69 things." And it's just, it's sort of lighthearted, but at the same time, it's addressing sort of issues that you know, people shouldn't be saying things like that to other people.
Kind of like, it's quite jokey from like a female perspective, isn't it? Like they know it happens, but for guys it's more like shocking, and they're like, you wouldn't think you'd say that, but there's some quite like weird and shocking stuff in there. Yeah.
It sort of sends a message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One of my favourites in there is a guy pinches a girl's backside and says, "Oh, you should be thankful, love." Because I was talking to my friend at the same time as Keris was writing this, and she suggested this one because it happened to her when she was at university. She's in a bar, guy comes up, and she's just like, how is this okay? How is this all right? But at the same time, it happens. And
yeah, there's ones that sort of address like issues of sort of lad culture as well. There's one that says, oh, that Dave really sleeps around, you know, what a player, but that Anna, what a slut. Like, it's sort of, you know, it's quite tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, it's funny in the way that it is actually really true in terms of things that people genuinely say. It's just shocking, really.
I would never have thought I'd ever see that some of that stuff being said, but after I hear other people's reactions, you just never quite understand.
What's nice is all the guys I've spoken to so far that I'm mates with, they've been like, no, never said a thing like that, you know, so we've chosen the right guys. But yeah, it does, things like that do get said, so. But it's funny.
It's also a sort of a message towards sort of feminism in some ways, because guys have this sort of freedom of speech to girls, whereas girls can't say a lot back to guys, I feel.
Yeah, I think sometimes you'd get labelled as like, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say. I suppose you get labelled as like a bitch for, you know, saying sort of demeaning things towards men, but somehow it's all right to say it towards women. Yeah, it's just quite funny. One of the things that I contributed, just to continue my potential swearing on KTV, one of the things I contributed to it was, you're such a cow, because someone had literally said that to me earlier that day, and I was just like, why is that something that you can say to a woman? Because if you ever said anything sort of in a serious nature towards a man like that, then, you know, the repercussions would be different. So yeah, as I say, it's quite tongue-in-cheek, but it also just addresses, like, it is sort of feminism, I guess, and that it addresses sort of the way that different genders act around each other and the things that they can get away with saying.
Sort of treat others how you expect them to treat you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't remember if this ever made the list in the end, but when I was talking to Keris, I mentioned my old driving instructor, who on our second lesson was asking me if I knew how to cook, and I was about, I don't know, I'd been 17, wouldn't I? He's asked me if I could cook, you know, how often I cook, what I cook, that sort of thing. And I mentioned, oh, no, not really, I don't need to. My parents, you know, give me meals. I bake, that's it. And he says, oh, right, you know, how are you going to get a husband then if you can't cook? You need to learn to cook. When I got married, I found out my wife couldn't cook, so I taught her, and I haven't cooked for myself in 40 years. And you went, okay, Jim, that's nice. This is going well.
On with the lesson.
Yes.
Okay, I have to know. What is your, if you can remember much, your favourite ones out of the 69 that is on there?
I think I like the 69th one. I don't know. Quite a lot of them, I've just sort of mentioned them to friends, and they've been so appalled by them. Actually, I sort of like all of them in that they've made people think. I think that's the whole point of it. But yeah, I think maybe Dave sleeps around, what a player, but Anna, what a slut. I think I'll go with that one. Maybe.
I'm 69, because that was entirely coincidental. Because we mentioned that it'd be 69, I said, I'm not being funny, love, but you're 69, better be amazing. And we're like, that's going in. That's what's happening. That's going in now.
I think probably just the one where this is where I hid my last wife's body. Horrific in the middle of all the other ones.
It's just after one that says, you're into necrophilia too, right?
Yeah.
And then the one after it is, this is why I hid my...
Well, that's all from me now. The next edition of InQuire will be available from
March the 6th.
March the 6th. Or check out inquirelive.co.uk for more interesting articles. Thank you for our guests of the show. I'm Alexander Lilley, and this has been the Paper Review. Goodbye.